Look, I'm just watching everything that's unfolding, and I watched all of what happened here. You have been in the forefront. Frankly, you deserve a Pulitzer, because I love the president's answer when he said, yeah, where are the servers? How did the FBI not get the servers? I want to see the servers. Why didn't they not take the server? And then, of course, treasonous is the comment by John Brennan. We still haven't seen Hillary's emails. There's such a double standard. And I have zero doubt nobody cared when Bibi Netanyahu's election was, Obama tried to impact that election. And here we are with the same predictable group of people. Democrats, weak Republicans, never Trumpers, and the media feigning moral outrage that the president didn't dress down Vladimir Putin in public. We don't know what went on behind the scenes, because he would rather talk about nuclear proliferation, radical Islamic terrorism, and Syria and the refugee crisis, and Iran and the relationship with Putin and Iran and Syria, and that it wasn't his top priority to say, I want to know if you meddled in our election, like we have not tried to meddle in other countries' elections.
Like he doesn't already know that they did meddle in our elections. He already knows this.
Everybody knows it.
Look, the media should be asking the same questions that the president asked if they really wanted to know the truth about what happened. And if we look at the DNC, for example, and the server, why hasn't anyone been asking about who the Awan brothers really are? I mean, we've got one reporter on that, and that's Luke Rosiak. Luke Rosiak with the Daily Caller broke the majority of those stories, and very few people are asking. And those people are apparently connected to Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Agency, ISI, which, by the way, Pakistan is closely connected to Russia.
How many countries hacked into Hillary's email server, and where is the same moral outrage?
That's right. And multiple enemy states, they believed, hacked into Hillary Clinton's unsecured junior varsity put together email server that was sitting there openly with classified information on it. And she was never charged. She was never challenged. And in fact, she was allowed to walk scot-free with people like Peter Strzok, who the president brought up again. And we've seen his attitude and the way he lied in front of Congress. Lisa Page, Comey, Andrew McCabe, former deputy director of the FBI, and then of all people, former CIA Director John Brennan comes out today on a...
treasonous.
Well, I've got to tell you, there have been a number of retired and current intelligence officers that have said his actions are bordering sedition.
Well, listen. First of all, it all happened on his watch.
That's right.
It didn't happen on Trump's watch. I will tell you, I don't know exactly at what point all of the feigned outrage... I'll tell you what's happening. For 3 years, I'll give you an example. The fake news media has gone with the anti-Trump, feigned moral outrage every single day, every tweet, every this, every that. As Trump said, even if he got Moscow as retribution for all of the sins of Putin, who is a bad actor. They are a hostile regime. But by the way, so are a lot of these countries are hostile regimes. We live in a dark, evil world, and that's the nature of the United States of America. But the point is, it doesn't matter anymore. When Hannity, the TV show, can beat every major news network on any big news night, every network, every cable, beat all these cable networks combined, I just began to realize it's not working. It's all the American people see through it. They see the agenda. They're sick of it. But they have seen the truth on stories that you've broken. And how the FBI did try to, the upper echelon, not rank and file, that they did literally rig an investigation into Hillary and tried to set up Donald Trump 1,000 different ways and tried to destroy him, or to quote Peter Strzok, we will stop him with an insurance policy and every other thing that has gone on.
Try to impeach a duly elected president by using intelligence tactics, by the way, which are utilized on our enemy state. They were being utilized in the United States of America.
American people.
Against an American president and against the American people.
The tools of intelligence were turned, the powerful tools of intelligence were turned on the American people. And by the way, we still have to get back to that surveillance unmasking story.
That's right. The weaponization of our law enforcement and intelligence agencies is one of the biggest stories that is not being investigated, that is not being told. And I remember when Trey Gowdy, who, by the way, I have a huge bone to pick with today because he failed. He backed away from Chairman Meadows and others who are requesting, who have put out there that they want to impeach Rod Rosenstein. They want to do this because he has failed to turn over documentation, and at the last second, Gowdy once again does what he does best.
Do you agree with me that there's something about the same group of people, the never-Trumpers, weak Republicans? By the way, weak Republicans, they would be so knocked on their ass this November were it not for Trump. They'd be done. And Donald Trump is literally carrying them into an opportunity to actually hold on to power, not because of them, in spite of them. And it's the same media. It's the same Democratic Party, the same people that have hated him from day one.
Sean, why did they not do the same thing to President Obama when President Obama's foreign policy was filled with failures, when he drew the red line in Syria and then turned everything over to the Russians? And then again, during the Arab Spring, failed in Libya, failed in Syria, failed across the globe. His policy to lead from behind set the United States foreign policy back, I would say decades. Mm-hmm. I would say decades. But they didn't hold Obama accountable the way they're holding Trump accountable, and they did a gotcha on him. They waited. As soon as he was up there speaking with Putin, the first thing they did was go after him, put him in a gotcha moment, because they knew on this geopolitical scale that President Trump was going to be diplomatic, that he wasn't going to go after Vladimir Putin in front of the entire world.
Why do you think that Rod Rosenstein announced all of these indictments on the eve of the Trump-Putin summit? Because, by the way, the media is claiming that Trump is siding with Putin over the intel community. No, Trump has seen that the upper echelons of the intel community under Obama and the upper echelons of the FBI screwed him and tried to rig an election and steal a presidential election from the people.
Well, it absolutely appears that Rod Rosenstein did this to work against this bilateral summit against President Trump and wanted to put him in a very difficult position. But even his indictment itself says that the vote was not changed and that no Americans were involved. So he's got 12 Russian military intelligence operatives that will never be extradited from Russia sitting on an indictment. Imagine if another country, and it's happened before, said, we want you to extradite your CIA officers and bring them back to Pakistan, to Russia, to Jordan, to wherever, to face charges in our country. It would never happen, ever. So this joke...
Let me just say this. It is, at this point in time, the biggest corruption, abuse of power scandal ever. How funny was it that Putin is offering to cooperate with Mueller?
I think it's great.
I say bring it on.
Absolutely.
I think Mueller should go to see Vladimir. They should bring the 12 people in. I think that, and similarly, I think that Putin, let's put it all on the table and clean up the mess.
Yeah, let's have a sit down. He put
Maybe we can then talk about Syria and Iran and nuclear proliferation and radical Islamic terrorism and Crimea. Yeah,
absolutely, which are topics that are so important, and especially to the people out here in the Baltic states. I mean, when we're out here, Sean, the people that I've spoken to on the streets, the people here in Helsinki, they're not negative on this summit whatsoever. They want to see talk. They want to see progress. They want the American people to understand what it is they are going through. And they are proud that this summit took place here. Right across the Baltic Sea is Estonia, right on the border.
Stay right there. When we come back, we're going to continue. Sara Carter's with us in Helsinki. Be with the president tonight, right after his press conference that the media is having a meltdown over, and Democrats and weak Republicans. Sara Carter is with us. Greg Jarrett and David Shona back in New York. Greg's book is now about a little over a week out. We can't wait. Mr. Jarrett, what's your perception based on the media reaction and hysteria?
Well, it's actually typified by former CIA Director John Brennan. I tweeted out a short time ago that, whenever Brennan opens his mouth or he tweets something, he removes all doubt about his ignorance. This is a guy who knows nothing about treason. It's a little frightening since he was a former CIA director. He was just a Hillary Clinton sycophant and the instigator of the anti-Trump dossier, peddling it to anybody who would take a look at it, including members of Congress and members of the media. So he was the great instigator of the Russia hoax. The fact is, we're not at war with Russia, so treason doesn't apply. The law on treason is very specific. Just look it up, 18 U.S.C. 2381.
Didn't this all happen on his watch? Didn't this all happen under him? Wasn't he in charge of preventing this? And didn't Obama say 2 weeks before the election, this could never happen in our country, it never has, never, when we knew it happened? This is just a crock. They're just lying.
All of these people, Brennan and Obama and Clapper, they were all asleep at the switch. And there is something important to note here with this recent indictment of the 12 Russians. The hacking of the DNC and the Clinton campaign only shows you how incredibly reckless and foolish it was for Hillary Clinton to have used this unsecured, unauthorized private server for all of her business as Secretary of State. This is why what she did is a crime. She jeopardized national security. She broke the law. The Russians...
Stop right there, because this is why this is total bull. Every reaction by the media, by never-Trumpers, by weak Republicans, and by Democrats, because none of them gave a flying at all. All right, stay right there. Greg Jarrett's book, by the way, exposes all of this, and this feigned moral outrage is exposed. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Sarah, David, and Greg. All right, 25 now till the top of the hour. Helsinki, Finland, that's where we are. Donald Trump on tonight. Some people have been writing me and they're saying, well, you're not as angry and as outraged as I want you to be over the media. And they're outraged and they're what they're saying about the president. You're not as outraged. Look at Paul Ryan. And look at all these rhinos and all these guys that were never Trumpers and all these guys that really only some reluctantly because they were brought kicking and screaming and the media is corrupt. It doesn't surprise me. Now, Putin did an offer to cooperate with the Mueller probe. That's kind of an original, stunning. I'm going to ask the president about this tonight. Wait till you hear his answer. That he's willing to cooperate with Mueller's Russiagate probe. I say, Robert Mueller, get your ass on a plane. Take, Andrew Weissman, your pit bull with you. Take your team of Democratic donors and go to Russia and go talk to Vladimir. He'll cooperate. Go interview the 12 people. Go interview them. He offered to let you do it, and I'm all in favor of it because maybe we'll get to the truth. And then maybe we can focus on, important things. Radical Islamic terrorism, the refugee crisis in Syria, Putin supporting and propping up that corrupt regime of mullahs that Obama dropped $150 billion on their tarmac. They can talk about those things. Maybe we'll move there. Maybe we should ask Putin whether Russia colluded with Hillary, considering Hillary bought and paid for Russian lies and perpetrated those lies on the American people before the election. John Brennan, apparently he was, sending this information out all over the place, Harry Reid and elsewhere. So maybe let's bring him in, too. Media claiming Trump is siding with Putin over U.S. intelligence. No, the president rightly is saying, what happened to the deleted server? What happened to Hillary's 33,000 emails? And why is there such a double standard? I don't blame him for being sick and tired of this whole thing. Brennan, treasonous? Really? It happened on his watch. He was the CIA director at the time. Really? Who's responsible for all the surveillance and unmasking? Anyway, the DNC chair stonewalled on why they won't let the FBI examine the servers that Russia supposedly hacked. Why won't they allow it? Do they still exist? Because Tom Perez was apparently on fake news CNN, and after 2 years of stonewalling, has the DNC allowed the FBI to finally examine those servers that it claims were hacked by the Russians? I say let them do it. I want the truth. I think Putin's a hostile actor, and it's a hostile regime. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. But you know what? It's a dangerous, evil world, and you know what? We've got to think geopolitically sometimes. Anyway, David Schoen, civil liberties and criminal defense attorney. Greg Jarrett's book is out 1 week from next Monday. It's out, The Russia Hoax, the illicit scheme. What is it called again? To help Hillary and...
The illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump. It's out a week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. I am so excited. Very excited. 1 week. It finally got here. Sara Carter's with us in Helsinki. Let me go to David Schoen, who I've not brought in yet at this point. David, I want you what's your general reaction? What about the double standard? What about the predictable people? What are your thoughts?
Right. I want to give you an observation and then touch on those points you raised. Here's the observation first. And by the way, I wouldn't be so quick to send Mueller and Weissman over there because I wouldn't trust them to convey what they accurately heard, depending on what that was. But in any event...
Well, maybe Putin will tape them.
Right. If someone were to come to me in a vacuum and say, we want to see whether there's been collusion between a president of this country and a president of Russia, the most direct piece of evidence that I could find, I think, to support such a theory in terms of eliciting Russian support for elections and so on, would be a 2012 hot mic conversation that President Obama had with President Medvedev, in which he said to him, you can be assured, Mr. President Medvedev, we'll have greater flexibility.
Can I help you? It went like this. It went...
My last election, after my election, I have more flexibility. And I think
Right, so that's direct
a great
evidence.
Point.
That's direct evidence. That's not circumstantial. That's not indirect. That's not something I need 13 people with an agenda to help me find. That's number one observation. But double standard. Look, here's the theme. If Trump is for it, I'm against it. That's the double standard. Give you two quick examples. Don't talk to Russia. Senator Schumer and others are telling us he's a bad man, etc. President Obama was the master of that. Outreach to our enemies, but not just outreach to hope to make inroads. It was destabilizing, most unstable area in the world, and it was all at the expense of our allies. I'm talking about soliciting meetings with people whose countries commit summary of executions day in, day out. Let me give you the other double standard. There are many, many examples. You just saw it last week. Strzok hearing. Forget about maybe missed opportunities by the Republicans. Think about the Democrats. Congressman Nadler, Jackson Lee, Lofgren, all of these people hold themselves out as civil libertarians, first ones to speak up about government misconduct. Now, all of a sudden, government misconduct of the most horrific nature, absolute lies, perversion of an office, doesn't matter. He deserves an honor. He deserves a Purple Heart. How dare people malign this man, thank him for his service to the country. I've never seen a double standard like that. And the last point I want to make is, because Sara Carter is on fire when you get back to her, and Greg does a fine job, is the interference with elections. That's what we're showing outrage in. That has been a staple of American foreign policy, to do our best to affect other countries' elections within what we consider to be our sphere of influence from time immemorial. Imagine if you were to conduct an investigation into the Obama administration's interference with the Israeli election to get Netanyahu out of office. Again, you wouldn't need a team of 13 biased with an agenda. You'd need one person, because he put money into it, he put personnel into it. It was an open interference, and we do it with countries all around the world. I'm not saying for a second that justifies Russian interference. I am saying part of this double standard.
Let me go back to Sara Carter. I mean, honestly, I don't say this lightly. You, Greg, David, so many others, I think, deserve Pulitzer Prizes for everything that you've done, and everything we've said has come true. But, I mean, David makes great points, Greg does, and it's like there's a group of like 15 of us that understand all this.
Well, and I think one of the biggest points that we need to make right here and now, and I mean, David Schoen and Greg were just incredible right now, but think about all the time that former Obama administration officials utilize to take down in an attempt to try to take down the President of the United States and the policies that this administration, that the American people want put in place. How much time they spend doing that? They don't do that with Vladimir Putin. They don't do that with other people. They spend all of their time on Twitter, on social media, and on, the mainstream networks, just bad-mouthing their own country, their president, the administration, and the American people. They spend the majority of their time putting us down, calling us smelly if you voted for President Trump, making fun of Walmart. I mean, what kind of people are these?
No. We're bitter, smelly Walmart people that cling to our God, guns, Bibles, religion. And, oh, by the way, we're irredeemable, deplorable human beings. That's what they think.
And
the president, by the way, the president just tweeted out, as I said today and many times before, quote, I have great confidence in my intelligence people, my being in big letters. However, I also recognize that in order to build a brighter future, we cannot exclusively focus on the past. As the world's two largest nuclear powers, it's better if we get along. Hashtag Helsinki 2018. Let me go back to Greg Jarrett on this. Yeah, I think the big picture is more important, but the double standard is just, there's zero outrage on my part at how they all align the same way. Zero, Greg, because this is who they are. They are liars and hypocrites, and at the heart of it all, Sara was making, this is what people like Brennan have done. And by the way, there's a certain amount of it that I support. You know, they have to deceive, they have to lie. It's part, right. But not against the American people. That's the difference here.
Well, you know, the CIA director is supposed to be nonpartisan. This was the most partisan CIA director in the history of America, John Brennan. And, you know, if you don't think for one moment that he was telling Obama every move that the FBI was making in the investigation of Trump, then you're smoking something. And where's the outrage over, you know, Hillary Clinton's classified documents that the Russians surely hacked in her private account? If the Russians hacked her campaign, according to the indictment on Friday, well, of course they hacked her private server. They likely gained access to all 110 classified documents on her account. But so where's the outrage that she did that? Where's the outrage that Barack Obama goes on television 2 months before she's cleared and essentially instructs the FBI not to indict her? He said, oh, she was only careless. She didn't intend to jeopardize national security. If Trump had made a statement like that, he'd be accused of obstruction of justice. Obama makes that statement, of course, and Director Comey and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page follow his orders to the letter. They substituted grossly negligent, which is a crime, and they used Obama's term carelessness.
By the way, I just got a Mediaite headline. Hannity trashes weak, pathetic, visionless, feckless, spineless Republicans. Yeah, I do all the time. They suck. They wouldn't get elected dog catcher. The only reason they got a shot in this election is because Trump is carrying them on their back in spite of themselves, David Schoen. And you're not even you're not a Republican either.
Nothing. I'm just an American voter and an interested citizen, which, by the way, I wanted to say this earlier, is why I believe you do an unbelievable service to the country with these one-on-ones with the president. People should be glued to the television set for these things. It's an insight into the most inner workings. He's comfortable with you, and he speaks openly and candidly. With any other president, these would be people would be glued to. They'd be raving about these things. Now it's all about the close relationship between you and the president. Thank God for it, frankly. But anyway, back to the other subject. Look, Sara mentioned it before about Trey Gowdy. There's a problem there. I understand he's a former prosecutor, but when he made those comments earlier that for the president to challenge the integrity of the Mueller's investigation is like a person acting guilty, that's contrary to everything we believe in our justice system. The Supreme Court and every other body has said we must always investigate the investigators, challenge the investigation. It has to be more than above board, and especially when we're investigating the President of the United States. That's not acting guilty. That's making the system work. And thank God that your show and very few others have been calling and taking them to task all along in the Mueller investigation. When you identify a person like an Andrew Weissman with a record of unethical behavior day in and day out over 20, 25 years, that's a big problem. Again, Mr. Mueller picked his team knowing the agenda. There was a whole universe of lawyers available out there. He only picked people with one agenda. No one can have any confidence in the integrity of that investigation, period.
Sara?
I agree with David. I mean, listen, this is an issue that has been handed to the American people. This is about the American people. And it's our job to continue to investigate, to continue to expose, and to hold those people accountable, Sean. This is what we have to do. And just as easy as these people have been spreading lies and disinformation about President Trump and about this administration, it would be just as easy for them to do it about anyone else. Remember, they are only telling you lies. This is not the truth. The fact that they may have something on President Trump, that's a rumor, that is propaganda, it is not real. Don't listen to it. It's not a fact. There is no proof of any of this.
By the way, I mean, when Corker, Greg Jarrett, and John McCain, and Lindsey Graham, and Paul Ryan, I mean, there's such strong leaders that, have been so supportive of the president on a consistent basis. And every anti-Trumper, never-Trumper, I just don't care anymore. You know what I care about? It's who I cared about during the election. Forgotten men and women that are now going back to work. I care about the economy. I care about energy independence. I care about America not getting into these ridiculous conflicts and then saying, oh, never mind, after thousands of Americans lose their lives and their limbs and are literally disfigured. You know what? I'm sick of it. These people have literally destroyed everything they touch. They have no strength. They have no leadership. They have no vision. They just suck. And you know what? Literally, they're only going to win in November only because Trump will carry them on their back.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, this is a president who has certainly improved America's economy. He has isolated and neutered ISIS, and he is a man who has deregulated a great many in the industry that was counterproductive to American manufacturing and production. This is a guy, and one of the refreshing things about him is that he doesn't back down from a fight. He could have picked somebody easier, more confirmable than his most recent Supreme Court nominee, but he felt like Brett Kavanaugh, is the perfect man for the job. An originalist, a textualist who will interpret the
Here's what they stand for. They stand for their crumbs back, open borders, Obamacare, impeaching Trump, and stopping Kavanaugh. There's nothing to improve the life of any one American person.
Well, their idea is to tax you more.